During the Cold War, the threat was fairly clear. We were at war with the Soviet Union, so we all believed in the notion of mutually assured destruction. Many people don't even know that there are still 16,000 nuclear weapons in the world, or that this threat is actually more important today, more risky today, than it might have been during the Cold War itself. I'm Erica Gregory, and I was the host of the Reinvent Nuclear Security series. I'm also the director of N Square, which is a new initiative that is acting as a catalyst for innovation around nuclear security, and a venture fund investing in some of the most interesting ideas that emerge from forums like this one. Reinvent Nuclear Security is based on the idea that the most important thing we can do to blow open the nuclear security conversation in this country is to bring people from many different disciplines together to lend their perspectives on the ideas that could really change the game.
This is a moment where we're poised on the edge of the third age of nuclear weapons. It feels like the hidden risk here is the tension between imperfect humans and imperfect but ever more autonomous machines.
We have new methods of understanding the use of nuclear energy that would make it very practical for us to reconfigure all of that fissile material into energy for the planet at a time when we really need it quickly.
This space just hasn't really done that very well. How do you use new technology? How do you use connectivity? How do you use distributed everything to get new thinking into this arena?
30 years from now, it will be virtually impossible to hide anything. The new technologies that are coming along make possible sort of citizen watchdogs to be added to the monitoring of what's happening not only with nuclear weapons, but with the people who control them.
That's not necessarily a good thing, because transparency can actually add volatility to environments. If you know everything that's going on, and someone acts in a certain particular way, markets and events can react even faster.
We're maybe 5 years into the era of big data, and this is very, very early in that space. And what we're going to have at our disposal in the next 20 years is going to be pretty advanced compared to where we are today.
Looking in the next several decades, and we're thinking about the people who are kind of going to be in charge, we have to be very concerned about what their capacity to visualize and imagine is going to look like. And we have to be thinking about how do we grab the capacity, the special capacity of humans to empathize and use empathy in moral decision making. How do we use that in a way that intersects with the data and the analysis and the sensors in the optimal way?
One of the ideas that I think is most interesting that came out of the series is that we could repurpose one of the national labs to look at issues that are of global significance in terms of global security.
It really is an industrial age construct. It's too large. It was scaled to the Cold War. I don't think anybody questions that. And it's extremely, extremely inefficient.
You've got to proceed by specific examples to get people interested. They're not excited by policy papers. They're excited by horizons. A program we could uniquely do at a national lab, the revival of the nuclear thermal rocket. The reason to talk about this is that's the fundamental thing you need in order to explore the solar system.
These labs are not well suited to doing many things, but they are well suited to doing many of the things that are necessarily associated with meeting the challenges of climate change.
The U.S. needs to maintain capability as long as there are nuclear weapons around the world. That's a national policy. And so to the degree that people don't agree with that, it's important to use our system and turn that policy around. But having that policy, I think it's clear that the laboratories play a role, at least on the intellectual design, strategic research end, of maintaining that capability.
If you're going to ask what the future of U.S. national laboratories should be, you should involve the scientists themselves. You should not ask that question primarily of the national security bureaucracy, because the scientists will be able to tell you that it is unscientific to expect that you can solve environmental sustainability from a nationalist perspective. It is impossible to solve political extremism or food safety or human health problems or economic problems from a nationalistic perspective. These require an international effort.
We learned during this series how important it's going to be for us to be able to get a top view of the whole problem space, so that as we approach new partners and ask them to engage, we can demonstrate for them where the problems are for them to work on and what the opportunities are for them.
We have a lot of good ideas for ways to move this field forward, but ultimately we have to get the buy-in of other countries as well. One of the gaps in our field is that there isn't really a clear front door or a clear meeting place for participants to facilitate that exchange, an environment that is accessible to the non-expert community.
Right now, there's no clear, rapid regulatory pathway for prototyping or commercializing the advanced reactor designs in the US. And this has led to a lot of the reactor startups, including Bill Gates' TerraPower, deciding to go overseas.
I think that what we've discovered is that we have essentially a 20th century problem trying to live in a 21st century world. But we have a whole new generation of innovators who have different expectations about how they'll engage with important issues.
If you're a young postdoc, and you want to go somewhere, and you're not thinking Los Alamos or Livermore like you might have been in the 60s and 70s. You're thinking Google or Facebook or Twitter.
If people are going to get involved in something, they want to feel like they can make a difference. And I don't think we've done a good job of showing people that they can make a difference within this field.
Can we find the missions which are inspiring and attract young talent to want to participate, to want to engage?
So people said I get involved in things if I feel like somebody I know or if I have been personally impacted by it. And again, it's very hard to think about nuclear in that way.
I haven't heard on this roundtable is the word peace, actually. Even if it sounds like the word that was used in the 70s by people, it still, at least for me, it is attractive to work for global peace or for a peace issue, actually, which I can also tell other people. So if they ask me, what are you doing? Disarming nuclear weapons, I say, look, I'm working for a peace cause.
I was really struck by how often it came up during the series that we need to create visceral experiences for people. Anything we can do to make this issue approachable, experiential for people, and give them a sense that they have some agency.
How can we use different media outlets to get through to them but not scare them?
Video games would be key here to give us options, especially with the nuclear issue. There are alternatives such as nonviolent movements or nonviolent alternatives that could be used in a video game as an option for the user as they're going through a game. So I think new media is extremely key in bridging these cultures.
And one of the things that's really, really powerful in games is the fact that we put the players in a role. You're taking a role and you're embodying that role. Games can be really, really good for expanding empathy across some divide or another.
I don't know, bring a small truck to each college campus that has lots of computer screens and flashing lights and things, and make it, pick a small group of students and say, okay, this is a situation room. Let's say there's a rogue state, there's a rogue actor. We don't know who they are, or we don't know if there's a nuclear accident or whatnot. Let's run through a scenario. Let's try and avert, global Armageddon.
I think there's also some pretty simple things that could be done on just videos and the storytelling piece, like to connect it to stuff that are deeply felt issues. So peace is a great one, but justice is also a really important one that I think could be tied to these issues.
I'm biased, I'm coming from TED, but I keep thinking about who are the individuals who have a message that's really compelling that people want to listen to. I think there's a lot of behind the scenes work that needs to happen.
We ended the series with an episode about the future we want. And that was a way of showing all of those people out there who think that it's impossible to rid the world of nuclear weapons, that there are plausible pathways to getting there within our lifetimes.
If we get rid of nuclear weapons, we have to replace the miracle that they brought, and that is 70 years without a general war. We are all here because of St. Bomb.
We can't save ourselves from climate change with nuclear weapons. We can't stop the Syrian civil war with nuclear weapons. We can't fight ISIS with nuclear weapons.
What is changing inside the United States military that means that just because we can slingshot an asteroid with precision, that the person who's pressing the red button and holding the codes is in a different place than they are today?
The idea of eliminating nuclear weapons has gone very much mainstream. Nothing's impossible. It's just really, really hard.
Our military today is remarkably anti-nuclear. Our military doesn't really want to spend that money and would much rather spend the money on conventional weapons that might be able to be used. One of the things that concerns me most right now in the Western industrialized world is that I think most people are sleepwalking, and there's so little awareness of this grave danger. I don't think we're doomed, but I do think it's urgent that we take action, because the threat is real, and I think the threat is imminent.
I don't think any of us can promise that we are going to achieve the goal of getting rid of nuclear weapons, or for that matter, even avoiding a nuclear catastrophe. I think it would be silly to say that we know for sure that that's possible. But I can say that as a result of all of these conversations, I personally feel a whole lot more hopeful. We loved the idea that this could be a participative experience. And so it's our hope that the conversation sparked will live on in social media, and that people will continue to engage with the ideas and reach back out to us with their own ideas. So we're looking forward to this conversation living on well past the end of the series itself.